Ramadan, I simply have to fast another day. Simple as that. But kafara, on the other hand, is something that requires a penalty. Something that requires a penalty. So if I am fasting and I have no excuse and I'm feeling perfectly fine, and I go and I eat, or I drink, or I'm intimate with my spouse, now I have to make up the fast, that's one thing, but I also have to do a penalty. A kafara. Kafara are several things, but for our purposes, one of two things. Number one, I have to fast 60 days consecutively. 60, consecutively. So let's say, for instance, in Ramadan, I was weak, so I ended up eating. Or I was weak and I ended up drinking something. Intentionally, no excuse. After Ramadan is done, after Eid is done, I have to fast 60 days back to back. 60 days back to back. Meaning, if I even miss one day, I have to start all over again. If I miss one day, I have to start all over again. So this is the penalty. Now a question some mothers and sisters ask is, there are times in the month where I can't fast. Because of, it's that time of the month where they can fast, the sisters and the mothers. So what do they do then? So the Sharia says, whatever days are for the cycle and they can't fast, they can skip those days and do them extra. So for instance, let's say someone has her cycle 6 days in the beginning of the month. So 60 days consecutively, the first, as they start their 6 days, they will leave out those 6 days without fasting, then carry on fasting. Then in the next month, they'll fast 6 days, they don't have to fast and carry on. But once those 2 months are done, they will do 12 extra days to make up for the days that they didn't do. That's the process for them. So this is qada and this is kafara. When I intentionally break my fast. Now, kafara once is enough for all of the mistakes you've done in the past. So let's say, for instance, in 2017, I was weak and I ended up breaking my fast. Remember, kafara is only when you break your fast. If you don't fast, you say, I'm not fasting today, there's no kafara, there's only qada. Kafara is when you began the fast and you intentionally broke the fast. Let's say in 2017, I did it once. Then 2018, I did it again. And then 2019, I did it again. So there's 3 times. If I do kafara one time, it's enough for all of these. I don't have to do 1, 2, 3 different kafaras. Is that clear? So we need to make sure that if for whatever reason I break my fast deliberately, I make up my fast. So the first is kafara in the form of fasting consecutively. But what if, because of a medical condition, the doctor says you're unable to fast consecutively for 60 days? In that case, I can feed 60 people. Give them their lunch and dinner for 60 people. And that will suffice. However, I'm only allowed to feed people when I am unable to fast. I can't just go and feed people. I need to first be unable to fast. So this is specific to people who, because of health reasons or whatever other reason, they're unable to fast. Okay, so that's qada and kafara. Next is medical things that do and do not break your fast. Medical items that do and do not break your fast. So the first is those things that do not break the fast. So the main principle for medicine, you have to remember, is the medicine has to go into the mouth and pass the throat. Into the mouth and pass the throat. That's one way. Another is through the rear, the back. If any medicine is induced through the back also, that will break the fast. Therefore, medicine administered through other means will not break the fast. One example is insulin. Insulin does not break the fast because it doesn't go through the mouth past the throat, or doesn't go through the rear. It is put directly in, either in the arm or in the belly or in other places. That does not break the fast. Eye drops, ear drops, these do not break the fast. Why? Again, it's not going from the mouth to the throat. It doesn't break the fast. IV drips. For some people, they need IV drips for energy or whatever. That does not break the fast. Any type of patch. Sometimes people need medicine through patches. If you have that patch, again, it doesn't break your fast. But the thing is, there are certain things that do break the fast. And I know people are going to have many questions. I'm going to get to those questions in a bit. But first, let me speak about those things that do definitely break the fast. So for instance, any type of oral medicine, orally you take medicine, for instance, Tylenol. You take a pill of Tylenol and you swallow it, it's from the mouth, through the throat, it's getting to the stomach, it's going to break your fast. Or any type of, for the most part, we're going to get to asthma puffs in a second, but for the most part, if somebody takes any form, not oxygen, but if anyone has to inhale something with substance. So for instance, when you take Vicks, and you put it into the water, and there's a steam that comes out of it if your nostrils, because Vicks has substance to it, and you're inhaling that will break your fast. Okay? We can get to follow-up questions in a bit. The next one is smoking. Sorry, this is not related to medicine, but we'll mention it anyway. Smoking will break the fast. Now, the one question that many people have is the asthma pump. Does the asthma pump break your fast or not? Scholars have two opinions on this. The vast majority of scholars, I won't say many scholars, they say because it goes through the throat, it passes the throat, it will break the fast. And therefore, if somebody has a need and they have to use the asthma pump, medically, they do not have to fast. This is one opinion of scholars. They say if you have to use the asthma pump, if you're able to do it early in the day, before you fast, after, then you do your best. But if medically you have to, many ulama say that it does not break your fast. However, some ulama, they explain medically speaking, it doesn't necessarily go through the food pipe, it goes through the windpipe, or it goes through your lungs. So some scholars have said there could be an exception to the asthma pump. Personally, my teachers, they've always said that it does break the fast, but if you've heard the opinion that it doesn't break your fast, that's fine. I'm not going to say that it's wrong or it's completely mistaken or misguidance. That's an opinion that some scholars hold, and we should respect that opinion. However, the idea is be consistent. We don't just shop around. Okay, I'm going to this scholar for everything, and then when he says one thing I don't like, I'm going to jump to another scholar. Be consistent. If the scholar you've always been going to says that it's fine, then it's fine. If he says it's not fine, then don't do it. Another type of medicine some people take is allopathic medicine, where some types of doctors, they give you medicine where you put it under the tongue and it gets absorbed into the cavity. I'm not sure if anybody's ever used this before, but there's some types of medicine, you put it into the mouth, it doesn't go into the throat. You put it under the tongue and it gets absorbed into the cavities. That doesn't break your fast because, again, it goes into the mouth, but it does not pass the throat. Again, anything that you take nasally, any liquids that you take nasally, again, it doesn't have to be necessarily the mouth, even through the nose, but it's going through the throat, it's going to break your fast. Okay? So these are some examples. Obviously, just remember the principle. From the mouth or through the nose, and then it gets past the throat, that's going to break the fast. Or it goes through the rear. It goes through the rear. Sometimes people say if I'm getting endoscopy, if I have to bring sometimes the doctor has to put the tube through the throat. Does it break the fast or not? Because there's fluid around, lubricants around the tube that goes past the throat, that does break the fast as well. There are many other things. For instance, oxygen. If I'm breathing in the oxygen, there's nothing wrong because oxygen doesn't have substance. If somebody has problem with breathing, so they need to breathe, there's nothing else, no water, no medicine, just the oxygen, it's fine. But if there's medicine or some type of body like Vicks or something and I'm breathing that in, that will break my fast. Okay, next what are some excuses for people when they are allowed to not fast. They are permitted to let go of fasting. The first is the person who is sick. When a person is sick, they do not have to fast. But what is meant by being sick? Being sick means you consult a physician who says that you are medically unable to fast. If I have a headache and I'm like, okay, this is enough, I'm going to take some Tylenol, that's not enough. You need professional advice saying that if you fast, it is harmful for you. In that case, I don't have to fast. Sometimes we just feel a bit weak. And now, obviously, let's say I don't have a doctor accessible and I'm feeling very, very weak. Then in that case, I use my best judgment. And my best judgment is, listen, I'm not feeling well. I really need to eat something, take medicine, that's fine. But the general rule is consult a physician, consult a doctor, and hopefully that doctor will give you some guidance on the matter. The second is the person who is traveling. The person who is traveling. If I am traveling, I do not need to fast. However, I have to start my travel before Fajr time. Meaning, let's say it's Ramadan. I have a flight to Boston at 11 o'clock. 11 a.m. I have a flight to Boston. I still have to fast that day because I only became a traveler in the middle of the day. Yes, the following day, if I'm still a musafir, I'm traveling, then I don't have to fast. But that particular day, I have to fast. So that's traveling. The second reason why I'm able to not fast is when I am traveling. The third is mothers who are expecting or they are nursing. If they are pregnant and they're expecting and they're nursing, if there is any fear on themselves or on their child, they do not have to fast. A doctor tells the mother, listen, you're very close to delivery date. If you don't eat right now, it's going to have adverse health effects, or there's some complication with your child, or you're nursing, if you don't eat, there's not going to be enough milk. And that point, they don't have to fast, and they will do qada, make up that fast later on. The fourth is the person who is on their cycle. Our mothers and sisters, it's the time of the month where they can't fast. They will not fast, but after Ramadan is done, they will do qada and they will make up that fast later on. And the same applies to postnatal bleeding. When somebody's given birth, obviously for about 40 days or so, there is some bleeding. They don't have to fast either after giving birth. And the sixth is a person who has severe mental issues, to the point that they lose their sanity. Some people, they have such severe mental issues that they're not able to think straight. They don't have to fast. And obviously if it's consistent, it's chronic, then they don't have to do qada either, because it's going to be there with their entire life. There's two more, and inshallah I know there are many questions, I'll get to the questions. Two more points to mention. The first is people who are old. If my father or grandfather is very old and grandmother is very old, he or she cannot fast, then what do? If they cannot fast and the doctor, meaning they're so old that they can't, there's no hope of getting better. Sometimes somebody's sick, they say after 2 months, 3 months, I may get better, I'll do qada, I'll make it up. But if somebody is 85, 90 years old and they're too weak, they can't fast, then we have to give fidya for every day of fasting. Meaning, in the month of Ramadan, my father is 95 years old, he can't fast, he's very sick. Every day of fasting, I have to give the same amount as sadaqatul fitr. Hypothetically, sadaqatul fitr is $10. Then for the entire month of 30 days, I have to give $300. I have to give $300 as a fidya for my father who's unable to fast. And now the last section is which things, they don't break your fast, but they are disliked, they are makruh. Meaning, if I do this, my fast will not break, but it is makruh. The first thing is toothpaste. A lot of people ask about brushing the teeth. Does brushing your teeth break your fast or not? And the answer is, if the toothpaste is not swallowed, meaning I brush my teeth and I spit everything out, I take everything out, then my fast is fine. But it can be makruh if I am uncareful. If I'm not careful, it can be makruh. Why? Because it can go down. So they say if you're going to brush your teeth, use very small amount of toothpaste to make sure that nothing gets swallowed, then it's fine. The second is for somebody who's cooking, tasting the food. If, let's say there's a spoon and checking if there's enough salt, they just put their tongue on the spoon, that does not break the fast. But it is disliked and makruh. If they're doing it once, twice, it's fine, but constantly doing that is makruh and should be completely avoided. And obviously there's a few more other things in terms of the 6 days of Shawwal and what do you do when you're traveling, and as we spoke about the asthma inhaler. Khulasa, and in summary, there are many ahkam related to fasting. Inshallah, myself and Imam Kashif, we're going to be in the masjid. If any time there are any follow-up questions specifically, we can get to it. But just for right now, I think one question many people always have is, what breaks the fast? Just remember, in terms of medicine, nasally or through the mouth, and then it gets past the throat, or through the rear. These are the main common areas in which the fast breaks. If anybody has any questions, feel free to ask. Yes?
So like if some sister mother, they are making up their mistakes in Shawwal.
Yeah.
Can they consider those will be 6 siyam of Shawwal, or they should have like 12, 6?
So the ulama say that if there's a 6 days of Shawwal and they are making up their fast, they should make the intention of the qada and have the hope of reward that they will get rewarded for Shawwal. So the primary intention is to make up the fast, and they're hopeful that they will get for Shawwal. And if they're able to, they do 6 extra, but if they don't, inshallah they will get rewarded for that. But the primary intention is always for the qada. Yes, brother? I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Mouthwash, does it break the fast? If nothing is swallowed, it does not break the fast. It's fine to use mouthwash. The same principle as the toothpaste. If you're using a large amount, it can be makruh because you're exposing yourself to the possibility of breaking your fast, but it's fine.
If we are traveling internationally on a flight somewhere and we started fasting in the middle of journey in the middle of the day, and we began at 15 hours, how will we break the fast?
So this is a common question. If I'm traveling internationally, now let's say I started my fast at 6 a.m. in the morning, and at 10 o'clock I went on an international flight, and the flight is taking me another 12, 13 hours. When do I break my fast? So the general principle is, whenever you pass over a place when there is sunset. Whenever it is sunset time, wherever you're flying over. For that, there are some apps that can help you. They'll tell you that if this is your travel distance, this is the time where you will pass sunset. Or you can ask the air hostess, or you can ask for the information. Has it been sunset anywhere where we passed? Then you break your fast. Even if, let's say I start my fast very early, and then somehow 4 hours later, I'm reaching sunset, I can still break my fast.
So like if we are traveling to east,
Yeah.
so the fast is very short, like 4 or 5 hours we get sunset, but coming back it's like very long, like maybe
So-
sometimes 20 hours.
So the general principle is, if the person is too weak to fast, they shouldn't fast, meaning they can't do it. But if they're healthy to fast, they're healthy enough to fast, then as long as the time does not exceed 24 hours, they have to finish the whole fast. The moment it's more than 24 hours, then there's a leeway of saying, okay, let's do less or more. But until that point, if you're too weak, you don't have to fast at all. But if you have the strength, then inshallah the person will be rewarded for that extra effort.
So when you are traveling, you have reached the destination. Is that option still applicable to you, that when you are traveling you don't have to fast?
So the question is, if I'm traveling, and while I'm traveling, okay, I'm not fasting, and then I arrive in my destination, can I still not fast? And the answer is, depends on how long you're staying there. If you're staying less than 14 days or less, meaning you're a musafir, you're a traveler, then you don't have to fast. But if you're going to stay there for more than 15 days or more, in that case you are not a musafir, so you cannot avoid fasting, you have to continue fasting. Same like salah. Just like if you're a musafir in salah, you don't have to fast. Yes.
For understanding, you said that medicine through the rectum
Yeah.
breaks your fast.
Yeah.
But IV does not.
No.
Can you explain that?
The reason for that is, the scholars explain, in order for fasting to break, there has to be a direct channel from the entry point, the orifice, to the abdomen. And the two main ways of doing that is through the throat and the rectum. IV goes into the bloodstream. That's why it doesn't reach the stomach, hence legally we can't say it invalidates the fast. Nutritious too, it doesn't break the fast. Although using like nutrition is disliked and should be avoided because that's kind of like cheating, but it does not break the fast. Yes, brother. Yeah. Yeah. If you're not staying in any one place for 2 weeks, then you don't have to fast. But you can. It's permissible to. It's not haram to fast. It's permissible. It's just that if it's difficult, you don't have to fast, but you do qada after Ramadan. Sorry? 15 days or less. Less than 15 days. Yeah, less than 15, so 14 days or less, yeah. 15 days or more, you're no longer a traveler. Yes, Dr.
Just people who are suffering from, say, senile dementia or Parkinson's disease or Alzheimer's, what is the hukum for them?
For them, they will be, it depends. If it's so bad that they have no control over their faculties, then it's like the person we mentioned, there's no fasting on them. So there's no fidya as well. Fidya is only when the person has their rational faculties and they're not fasting because of weakness. But if the person completely forgets, they're not in control of their mind, then there's no fasting on them to begin with.
They are like
Marfu al-qalam, yes. They're absolved.
The other issue that brother raised, anything going through the rectum,
Yeah.
they does not reach any level of absorption except if it is confined to the rectum.
Okay.
So even then, it is not going to the stomach.
Because they're saying there's a path to it potentially, that's why it breaks the fast. Yeah. At least that's how the fuqaha have understood it. That's how the ulama have understood it. There's a lot of debate on some of the specifics of the medical issues. Yes.
So, Sheikh, what is the ruling for the nafil fast? Is like in terms of by what time we can make up our mind that we're going to be fasting?
So generally for nafil fast, you have until the middle of the day. But what do they mean by the middle of the day? Fajr time begins 6 o'clock, hypothetically, 6 o'clock. Maghrib time, hypothetically, is 8 o'clock. Right in the middle of that. Not the middle of sunrise and sunset. The middle of from the beginning of Fajr until that. Let's say, hypothetically, it's 11:45. I have until 11:45 to make intention.
Okay, so if it's like 13 hours, we are talking about like 7.5.
Exactly. Anytime before that, you can make the intention.
If we are traveling in Italy and let's say the fasting started Ramadan here, 1st of April, means 2nd of April, summer started first. Obviously, traveling to a particular country, and then I've already fasted 30 days here.
Hmm.
Traveling on the Eid day,
Yeah.
that will be 29th, 31st day.
So you don't have to fast the 31st day. If you've already done 30 days of fasting, you don't have to do a 31st day. Yeah.
And also the missed, while traveling, if you missed any of the fastings, do you have to keep it?
You have to make it up again. Whenever, but not on Eid. After Eid, you can make it up, inshallah. Khair, inshallah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to practice upon what has been said. Obviously, we're going to pause our sessions throughout Ramadan. After Ramadan, inshallah, we'll carry on again. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inspire us to preserve our Ramadan. May He allow us to witness the month of Ramadan and benefit from it, inshallah. Subhanallah wa bihamdi, subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Jazakumullahu khairan wa assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Wa alaikum assalam.